So now guys, let's first of all focus on the user routes. Okay, that's what we need first. Then we are going to create task routes and middlewares also. Okay, so let's first of all focus on the user routes. So I'll just say we have a directory, suppose named as routes. Okay, so routes, inside this we are going to create a file named as user routes.js. Okay, that's what we need here. So now guys, here I would simply say first of all we have to use Express. Okay, we have to use Express. Then we are going to create a model for user. Okay, so inside the models directly later on we are going to create a model for user. So I'll just comment this out for now. And what else? We are going to say we have an instance of router. Okay, then we are going to also use bcrypt and jwt. I'll explain the purpose of bcrypt and jwt, but you must at least import these. Okay, so I'm just going to import this bcrypt and jwt. Right, that's what we all need. And once someone visits this route, I would simply say user route is working, and then I would just simply export this to check from the other page. Okay, to check from the other page, and I'll just again copy this, and I would create another file here named as taskroutes dot js. Okay, and here I would simply paste everything, and this time it's a task, and again a task. Again here I'm just saying task routes are working. That's it. Okay, now I've created user routes and task routes. It's actually task. Okay, so yes, so after this guys, I would simply say in index.js you just need to import these. Okay, just import these. So make sure there is no error. You can see that everything is fine. I didn't get any error. That means everything is fine. Now here I would simply say when the application starts, we are going to use these routes also. Okay, so when someone visits slash users, what would I get? I would simply get this message, user routes are working. Someone visits task slash task, so I would simply get task routes are working. Okay, so now let's try to use it. So someone is actually trying to visit, yes, user. So you can see I'm getting user routes are working. And if I type task, so you can see, okay, it's actually tasks, and you can see task routes are working. Okay, so you can see that it's working perfectly. Now what we are going to do is we are going to talk about the user routes. Okay, we are going to talk about the user routes. So for that, we would simply say, first of all, the user is going to register, but for that, we are going to need the model. Okay, so I would again say that we'll create a directory for models. So let's name the directory as models. Inside this, I'm going to say that we have what? We have the first model named as user. Okay, so user, this is the user schema actually. User schema. Okay, so here we are just going to create a MongoDB schema, and it would simply first of all be needing Mongoose. Okay, so we'll import Mongoose that is used in MongoDB, and then we are going to say we are going to create an instance of Mongoose and just close it. Inside this we can define different parameters. For example, I would be having name, email, password. So I would just say we have the first field as name. Okay, then suppose the second, third field is email and password. And then after this, you can also store different things like age, gender, and profile picture also. That's what we can store later on. But right now, you can see these are all the things which we are going to have here, right? So guys, now after this, what I'll do is I'll simply export this. Okay, so module.exports mongoose.model, and I'm just going to export this. Okay, that's how you export things in Node.js. Now I simply exported this module. So whenever I call user from any page, for example, I'm just calling this and I'm going to just save user or call a user or simply get the data. Okay, and one more thing, this name is actually user schema. Okay, that's it. Okay, so you can see that, yeah, task manager app is here, and I think that's all what we needed. Let me just again check this. So we have actually named it as user schema, and what we have done is we have simply said that the name is type string and it's required. Yes, name is required, and password is also required, and the email is also required. Okay, email is also required here, and email must also be unique. Okay, so I'll just say unique. Okay, so UNIQ, unique equals true. Okay, that means I would say the email must be unique. If the email already exists, I won't allow the user to register again with the same email, right? So that's what I want. And one more thing, just before saving the data into my database, I want to hash the password. That means if the password is HJ123, I want to convert it into some hashed format like this, okay? So you cannot understand this. You cannot understand this. What does this says? But it actually says that the password is HJ123, okay? So only your Node.js backend would be able to understand this. So no hacker can easily hack your ID. So it's very safe to use this bcrypt for hashing a password like this. Okay, so we are going to use bcrypt here, which would allow us to hash the password. Okay, so we would again just say bcrypt, right? We'll just use bcrypt here. I want to hash the password, so I would just say just before saving the data into my database, if the password is modified, that means suppose if you are trying to add a new password, suppose HJ123, so convert that password into a hash format. That's what I want to say. So I'll just say user schema dot pre, and I would just say just before saving, do one favor for me, that is call a function. So async function. Inside this, I'm just going to call a parameter named as next. Next is actually always used for middlewares. That means once this function is completed, then save the data to database. That's what I'm saying. Before saving the data, call this function. After this, I'm saying next. That means after this, do whatever you want. Okay, do whatever you want. Okay, so I'm just saying next, and I would just first of all target the current user which I'm talking about. So user equals this, and then I'm just going to say that if user password is modified. Okay, so if user is modified, and I have to look for the password field. So I'm just saying if the password field is modified, then you have to say that your password field is modified. So I'm just going to say that just hash the password like this. Okay, so if the user field is modified like this, so I'm just going to say hash the password. Okay, but the problem here is you can see that I'm actually getting some issue because this is not an arrow function. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, now it's fine. So it's just a normal function, and you can also create an arrow function also by simply using it like this. So instead of this, you can just say we have a bracket here, and it's like an arrow function. Okay, so again, just a normal function with the arrow parameter. Okay, so it's again a function. Okay, it's again a function. It's just different way of writing. Okay, I hope you know what's arrow function and what's a normal function. Both are same, just the way of writing is different, right? So you can see I've simply written it as an arrow function. You can write it as a normal function also. Okay, so here I've just said that if password field is modified, then I would just say change the password from, suppose HJ123 was the password, so change the password from whatever it was. So I would just say hash the password. Okay, so what does this bcrypt do? It would just hash the password. It means convert your HJ123 into some long sequence which nobody can understand, only bcrypt can understand. Okay, so I'm just saying convert your password into some hash format, and then after this save that password to database. That means password won't be saved like HJ123, password would be saved like this. So even if someone has your access to the database, that means they can see your database, they can't understand the password. Okay, so that's very great to use. Okay, that's very great to use. So once you are done with this, simply call the next parameter so that you can save the data to database. Okay, just before saving, I'm performing this. After this, I'm calling next. Next means I'm calling a middleware, which is after this, whatever it is, just call that. Okay, whatever it is, just call that. That means after this, we are going to save the data. Okay, before saving, this is called. After this, we are going to save the data, right? So that's what it's called. So it would save the data to database, right? So now we are going to call this into our user routes. Okay, so here we have actually called user schema, and here I'm going to create my register API. So very first API, so router dot register. So guys, here we are going to create two APIs. That is, first is the register, and then second is the login API. Okay, two APIs are very important here, register and login always. So we are going to say for the register, we are going to create router, and this is again a post method because we are going to save data to database while we are registering. So post method, and suppose I'll just name it as register, and then this is suppose an asynchronous operation with the arrow function which has two parameters, request and response. This is the register. Okay, again I'll just copy and paste it here. Now login is what? Login is, again you can treat it as like, again it's a post method. Okay, you can again treat it as a post method. So it's login because we are sending some data from front end to back end. Okay, so again post method, right? So now you would say in the backend you would be getting the data, right? So first of all, I would just say things would be in try catch block so that we can handle errors easily. So try and catch. So if there is any error, I would simply show the error. Okay, I would simply show the error, or we can create an error middleware also later on. So we can replace with that. We'll understand what is a middleware, but right now you can write it actually like this. Okay, so what you'll do is, whenever there is an error, I would show the error. But instead of this, let's create a middleware. Okay, so let's understand the concept of middleware. Middleware is like when you want to call something immediately after something or before something. Middleware is like that. So I'll just create a directory for middleware. So middle where middleware. Okay, middlewares would be here, and I'm just going to say that inside this, let's say we have a middleware named as error middleware, right? Error middleware dot js. So this is the middleware for our error. Okay, so we would say whenever there is an error, I would just call a function which would just send error to the front end. Okay, that's what we are saying here. So I'm just naming my function as error middleware, and it would be having a few things like status code. We would be sending this status code, and what's the message, and suppose actually what's the exact error, and request, response, and what you want to do after this. Okay, so next, that's it. Okay, so you would be simply creating a very basic function like this. So I would just say that whatever it is, I would just simply send a response like res dot status, and you would just say your status code. But if status code is not there, so you would simply provide 500. That means, suppose if it's a server error, so automatically 500 would be there, or if it's something else, so automatically whatever it is would come. Okay, if you don't provide the status code, then you would automatically provide 500. Okay, then I would just say that as a JSON response, I'm just saying okay as false. Why am I okay providing okay as false? Because in front end, if okay is true, that means everything is fine. If okay as false, that means there is some issue. So it's used for identifying. So in front end, whenever you are calling this API, you would know that okay value is false, that means there is some error. Okay, so it's very easy to judge now. And then I would just simply send an error, or you can just say your error would be simply sent like this, right? So now here you can see that's how it actually worked. You can also send the message also, error dot message, and whatever you want you can send under data also. Okay, so that's how it actually works. And after this, you don't need to do anything because you're simply sending the error to front end. Wherever there is an error, you're simply sending that error to front end. Okay, so after this, you would simply export this. So I'm simply exporting the error middleware. That's it. Okay.